it sounds like you'd always been interested in taking care of yourself. It's not that you didn't value taking care of yourself, but were there mindset changes, first of all, in believing that you could do it and believing that you were successful? And then, I'm assuming that there would have been quite a bit of negative self-talk about, I'm a failure, it's my fault, why can everyone else do this and I can't do this, and what's wrong with me? And
and those are questions that were being asked of me, everybody around me my whole life, family to friends, to people at school, young and old, to medical professionals, to work colleagues. They would all wonder in their own ways. Some of them were a little more diplomatic about it than others. But it was a struggle for me. It does lead to issues of low self-worth, low self-esteem. I think back to my first encounters with a dietitian at the age of about 12. And I don't recall whose idea it was, except that it wasn't mine. But I went along with it anyway, because, again, I want to be a good boy, do the right thing, do as I'm told. I don't want to be fat, right? I want to do whatever I can to get healthy. And the dietitian's selling me on the food pyramid, and I'm thinking, right, okay, that's fine. Get stuck in, and it's not working. And then, you must clearly not be doing what you're telling us you're doing. There's something you're not telling us, you're lying, or you're cheating, or you're non-compliant in some way or another. And that's what I took on board and lived with. And I felt that sense of failure at a very personal level. Okay, well, there's something wrong. Clearly, that something wrong lies with me. It's my responsibility. It's my fault. I am a failure. I am subhuman. I'm going to be fat forever. And there's just nothing anybody is going to be able to do about it. The dietitians, if they can't help me, then what hope is there for me at all? I had tried. And, the fact that their advice wasn't able to work for me, it never really sort of dawned on anybody at that time at all that there was any question about the advice. It was the person. If you're fat, then it's your fault. It's hard for me at times. I'll have to be careful about it when I think about this, because if I'm not careful, I can get quite angry about it. What sort of life experiences have I missed out on? What kind of quality of life has this idea of what it is to eat healthily? What has that cost me? But when I sort of start thinking that way, I do try to turn it on its head, and just sort of appreciate the last few years that I have had, where things are just so much easier in so many ways that a lot of people wouldn't necessarily think about. And I've talked about things like clothes shopping, for example, where, back in the bad old days, it was such a struggle just to find anything that fits. And nowadays, clothes shopping is a challenge for the opposite reasons, because I have so much choice now that I've literally never had my entire life. So I have literally no fashion sense, and I'm starting to have to make decisions. Okay, well, what do I like? What don't I like? And these are sorts of things that most people of a more normal size might take for granted, perhaps. That's what they've always known. And these are things that I'm only really starting to learn for myself in more recent years. So yeah, it's a tricky one, but I try and remind myself to be grateful for what I can do with my life now, whether it's small things like clothes shopping and so on, or larger ideals and goals and dreams and things like to travel overseas. Part of when you're as overweight as I was, you want to hide yourself away from the world. You don't want to travel. You don't want to go out into the world, because then the world will see you. And so you hide away from the world so that the world doesn't hurt you. If they can't see you, they can't hurt you. And when the weight is lost, it's just a realization of, oh, wow, so this is what life can actually be like. So this is what everybody else has experienced their whole life, and I'm still getting used to it in some ways. But to travel, I've been to Australia, I've been to the States a couple of times, attending conferences and just meeting people, just talking to people. Because again, you don't, it's something that you want to shy away from and just not engage with the world at all, because the world has rejected you. Or at least that's how I took it for myself. Why interact with the world when the world doesn't want anything to do with you the way you were? And now I'll talk to people and they might say, I would never have known that you'd been overweight. I don't have many before photos, because again, who wants to be photographed when you're at that size? But I have, those badges of honor, as I like to call them, that I can sort of show people to explain where it was that I've come from, and how difficult it was physically and every other way as well.